Hello and welcome to Unwind Sessions, where right after my shift I give the highlights of my workday and answer any questions that might have been asked in a previous session. My name is Juan. I am an English Spanish medical video remote interpreter with over 4 years of experience. Today is Tuesday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you, March 2021. Today I took a total of 31 sessions. It was more video sessions today than audio sessions. And today was actually a pretty interesting day, so I have a lot of things to talk about. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is a session which actually made me feel very frustrated because what happened in this session is that the provider was not really listening to the patient and not listening to me either, or not understanding me, I guess, because the patient's date of birth was the 13th. Well, the day of the date of birth was the 13th, and the provider kept on asking if it was the 30th because the 30th was what actually was written on the medical record. So every time I would be like the 13th, she would be the 30th, and I'll be like, I would tell the lady, right, el 30, and then the lady would be like, no, el 13, and then I would go back to the lady and I'll be like the 13th, and then she would be like 30th, and then it happened for like a while, and I actually went ahead and told the lady, the patient, I told her, when I asked her, I told her, es el 13, it's the 13th, 1-3. And then I went ahead and then she said, yeah. So I went ahead and told the provider, it is the 13th, 1-3. And then that's when the provider caught on. It was a nurse or registration, I don't even remember. But then she caught on and then she said, oh, okay. It's just that it says here that it's the 30th. And then after that, she went ahead and called registration and had them change the date from the 30th to the 13th. And I thought all of my troubles were over, but boy, was I wrong. Then the next thing that happened is that the lady had her on her ID. She had her maiden name, her mother's last name, and I mean her maiden name, and on the insurance she had her husband's last name because the insurance was under her husband's name and her husband was the one that worked and they were married. I don't know why she had her maiden name on her ID and then on the insurance card she had her husband's name. But I mean, if I already told you the problem we had with 30 and 13, I mean, you can just imagine the problem that I had trying to get the provider to understand that she needed to have her husband's last name because else they would not allow her to get the insurance because it was not under the name that she was down for the insurance, right? So um, I was already frustrated because of the date, and then after a while, I don't know, 5 minutes after arguing about the name, and then the provider not understanding me, I just went ahead and fixed the situation. I just got very frustrated, and I went ahead and I told the provider, I'm sorry, this is the interpreter speaking, ma'am. The lady is saying that her maiden name is on her ID, but her husband's last name is added to her insurance, or else the insurance is not going to be able to cover her because it's not the same name. And that was that. Then the lady just went ahead and called registration and they fixed everything. But I don't know what was so hard about this session. I don't know if I was not um, explaining myself correctly, or I honestly don't know. But one of the things that I can tell you is that the provider was not really listening to what I was saying or what the patient was saying, because she was going with her notes on the paper, and I guess like she thought that I was saying the things wrong, maybe. I don't know, but it was like really, really, really frustrating. I have not had one of those sessions that actually made me feel that frustrated in a while. So that's why I'm telling you that this was a very surprising, a very interesting day. So that was one thing that happened today. And another thing that happened today was with a doctor that had a very thick Asian accent. And I was able to understand a lot of what the doctor said, but sometimes it was very difficult to understand some things. And like I've already stated before in some sessions, you know how just one little word, if you don't get that right, you don't understand the whole context. So there was a lot of times when there was just one little word that I didn't understand, and I had to ask the doctor for repetition. And he was very nice enough to not get angry and not be upset over giving me repetitions. And he was a very nice doctor. And but if the session was not hard enough, one thing that the doctor did that really made this session be horrible for me was that first of all, the doctor had a very heavy Asian accent that was hard for me to understand, and second of all, the doctor tried his shot at speaking Spanish. So like some words that he knew in Spanish, he would mix it in with everything that he said. So sometimes it was hard. It was hard because you can imagine. Um, well, first of all, it was hard to understand his English. Now imagine how hard it would have been to understand the Spanish. So I mean, doctor, you made me sweat. I swear, you. Oh man, I got nervous during that session, but I did a good job, and I asked the doctor for many repetitions. And one thing that really stood out from that session is that the it was a lady with her daughters, and she really wanted the results of some blood tests. And the doctor went ahead and gave her the results. But then at the last result that he gave her, he said, and on the corazon test, everything came out well. Now, if you know Spanish, corazon means heart. And I went ahead and I told the lady this, the la prueba del corazón, the corazon test. And then the lady just looked so puzzled, like, what? And then she said that there was no test for the heart. And then I went ahead and told the doctor, and then the doctor repeated it, but this time he didn't say corazon. He actually said cholesterol. So, I mean, I, what did he want to happen, right? Or, I mean, I was already expecting for the doctor to be using like a Spanish word here and there, and then his heavy accent. So he said cholesterol, but I actually understood corazon. And in his defense, I mean, it was a blood test for a little girl, so I should have, I probably should have known that he was saying cholesterol, not corazon. But man, that session was hard. It was definitely on the top 10 hardest sessions that I have ever had. And but I mean, those are the situations that are going to make you a better interpreter, right? And like I always said, I mean, expect the unexpected. I mean, you have a really thick Asian accent and Spanish words from the doctor, so I mean, it was wild. And oh, another thing that I would like to mention, not from that session, but from a different session, was that I mentioned in a previous session, I think last week, that I had the term a eye hemorrhage, and that is one of the terms that I actually forget. I don't know why is one of those terms that just doesn't want to stick with me at all, and it just leaves me. And then it's not a term that I commonly come across, but whenever I happen to come across and they say it in Spanish, I can't remember the English equivalent. But if they say it in English, I can't remember the Spanish equivalent. It's weird how my brain works. But this time I made it. I actually made it. Maybe because I just had the term last week, or I don't know. I guess I was biased um, because I already had the term. So yeah, of course I already had it in my mind, and I was already thinking about it and everything. Probably if I get the term next month, I might not remember it, but I think I might because I think I have it. So, anyways, the term came up and I nailed it because I already knew it from last week. So I went ahead and I knew eye hemorrhage. So whoa, I felt very nice because that's a word that I always had to look up. But this time I didn't have to look it up and I was able to get through it. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about today, it was my last session. It was an hour and a half long. It was a phone session and it was a legal session. Now, I am not too fond of legal sessions because like I know most of the basic terminology because I studied it because I knew one day I because when I was working for the previous company they told us that we had to take legal calls but just like minor calls like the misdemeanor court or I don't even know what it's called. I'm telling you I know basic vocabulary. So uh, like I know many things of vocabulary terms, but there are a lot of like really legal attorney vocabulary that I really get stuck on and I really hate because I mean I personally feel like I'm not going to waste my time in learning legal vocabulary because I'm not a legal interpreter. I mean, I'm a medical interpreter. However, I know that I am going to be taking legal calls every once in a while, so I took the time to actually learn some, at least just like the basics, you know, and I have a pretty good knowledge of the basics. But when an attorney starts throwing his vocabulary at me, sometimes I do struggle. Sometimes I do have to ask for repetitions. Sometimes I do have to let the attorney know that I don't know a certain word. Sometimes I have to tell the attorney to let me look up a term. Sometimes I look up a term. So legal calls are sometimes they're difficult for me. Um, but because I don't consider myself a legal interpreter, so I don't really study all of that terminology because I can't even remember the last time I had another legal session. So I just don't find it worth it. And of course, as a video remote interpreter, I can always look up terms. So maybe I use that as support, which I really shouldn't. But I mean, I find it okay uh, because, like I said, I don't take that many legal calls. But one thing that I would like to say about this session is I learned the word today, which was counterclaim, contra reclamo in Spanish, and this was actually a term that was used by the um, by the client, not by the attorney, but by her client. And she said contra reclamo, and I had to look that up, counterclaim. And this session was not that hard. It was not that hard because the client, she actually spoke pretty good English, but the attorney put me on the session because she was taking a statement from the lady, so not a recorded statement or anything, just her statement, so she could verify the facts and everything. Um, and the lady spoke English, so the attorney put me on because she thought that since this was going to be a very detailed session, that the client would have been more comfortable explaining herself in Spanish. But she actually spoke very good English and she made the call easier because every legal term that she used, almost every legal term that she used, she actually left it in English. I don't know why. Maybe she did not know the Spanish equivalent for it. But whenever she was talking, so she would be like, ah, no, sí, y luego la señora nos dijo que le entregáramos el lease, porque dijo que si no, nos iban a hacer evicted. Y luego teníamos que ir a la civil court y tuve que hablar con el sheriff and like that. Like she was just saying like all of the legal terms, she left it in English. So it was easy. Like when I had to give the terminology to the attorney, then it was already in English, so I didn't have to break my head just seeing what all those terms were. But one thing that I really enjoyed about this session is that the word eviction, that word for some reason never stuck to me, and that is a word that I also always had to look up because I would always forget the Spanish equivalent. But I nailed it in this session, man. I didn't even need to look it up. And eviction in Spanish is desalojo. And I know eviction, like, but for some reason, the Spanish equivalent I could not remember, but this time I did. So I was very proud of that, and I was very proud of actually being able to remember just that little word. And I wanted to say something else about this session. Let me see if I can remember. No, I can't remember. I can't remember what I was going to say about this session, but maybe if I remember, I'll let you know on the next session. But I would like to add a little bit to what I said yesterday about actually speaking slow, and not actually saying "oh my" whenever you forget a word. Um, there is a time that I would actually say that it's okay to express surprise or something like "oh my." Like I remember this one time, I can't remember the word, but I couldn't remember the word to save my life. And I thought I would remember, and I used the strategy, and I didn't even look up the word. And when I had to interpret that word, I just couldn't remember it. So what I did, I just said, I'm sorry, man, this is the interpreter. I am having a brain fart, and I cannot remember the word. And right exactly when I said that, I remembered the word. So I told you yesterday that you should never say "oh my" or anything like that, and I believe that that's not correct. You shouldn't use it all the time, but if there is ever a time when you just can't remember a word to save your life, then that's the time you do to use it, right? But use it sparingly. Like don't rely on it, and use it. Everyone like never. I would say use it never. But if there ever comes a time when you do have to use it, then just know that that is available, and just be honest with the provider. I mean, we're all human, right? We'll make mistakes. So that is going to be pretty much it for me today, guys. Please leave your questions in the comments, and I will answer some of them on the next session. Remember that I am here every Monday through Friday after work, and I already said that if I am ever not here, I will let you know. And I am not going to be here. I will be coming back next Tuesday. But I have a couple of videos that were stored in my phone that I never uploaded. So I'm gonna be uploading those tomorrow and the day after. And then I have some videos that I did for Patreon before I ever started doing it on YouTube. So I'm going to be posting some of the Patreon videos for online sessions on Friday, and then another one on Monday, and I'll be back on Tuesday. So that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video and have not done so for more content. And don't forget to share. Happy interpreting. Goodbye.